In this video, I'm going to show you how to make an animated GIF from a still image in Photoshop. I'm currently using Photoshop 2018 and I have an image opened up saved as a TIFF. What we're going to do towards the end, if we look at our layers, is we're going to create several different layers based off of the same image and create an animation like this. I took this photo of my son just as we were heading towards the Statue of Liberty, and since I didn't take a video of that moment, I wanted to capture the sense and the emotion of being there and just feeling the wind blowing in your hair. And so I wanted just to create some subtle layers in this animation. In Photoshop, let's take a look at this image. If I go to image size, I can see it's a pretty large image. It's saved at 100 ppi and it's over 2,000 pixels in width. So that's really too large for how I want to use it on a website, but I want to maintain it at a larger size because I'm going to be doing some photo manipulation. So I'm going to keep it at its original size and resize it when I'm done. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel and then open up my layers panel. If you don't see your layers panel for any reason, just go to window and select layers. So the default is that the first layer is the background layer and it's usually locked. So I'm just going to duplicate that layer. I always like to keep the original image intact so that if I make a mistake, I still have the original. I'm using my options menu and I'm going to select duplicate layer. I'm just going to go ahead and label this as layer 1. So now I have my background layer in layer 1. So I'm selecting layer 1 because I'm going to work in layer 1, and I'm going to use my zoom tool to zoom in on my image. What I want to do here, I'm switching to my hand tool so I can move this up a little bit, is I want to move pieces of hair around so that it looks like there's some movement going on. I'm going to use my lasso tool and feather it to 5 pixels. And I just want to select some pieces of hair and then use my move tool to rotate it. So once I see that curved double-headed arrow, that means I can rotate and then I can move the hair to where I want it. And I'm going to hit enter or return, and I can turn that layer off to look at the original layer. So what I want to do now is I'm going to zoom in here more and then just do some simple retouching using the rubber stamp tool. And I'm going to use decrease the opacity. You can adjust the opacity or flow. You can change the brush size by using your brackets. The left bracket makes it smaller and the right bracket makes it larger. I'm holding down my option key to clone some of the water over pieces of hair just to clean this up a bit. So now I've just moved that hair over some. So I'm not going to do too much right now just to save time, but that's how I've created a new layer of making some changes in the hair in this image. Now I want to go to my options menu again and duplicate that layer again, and this time I'm going to call it layer 2. And this time I'm going to do the same thing with the lasso tool, but I want to take this piece. I'm in layer 2, back to my move tool. I'm going to rotate this and move it up and hit return. And I can hide the visibility so that I can see the sequence. Selecting layer 2 again, I'm going to duplicate it and make layer 3 and select another piece of the hair, rotate it and move it up, hit return, and then in this layer maybe I'm going to go back to my rubber stamp tool and erase some of the hair. So just in the interest of time, I'm going to leave it at that and turn off the layers and then turn them on, turn the visibility on one by one. So on layer 3, I'm going to do the same thing and duplicate and call that layer 4 and move another piece of hair and rotate that up. Hit return. And then I'm going to do that again for layer 5. Apply that, and then I would want to go back and just clean it up. But right now I've got 6 layers including the background. Maybe I want to just do one more layer and call that layer 6. So you want about 6 to 7 layers at least. So I'm just going to do one last move here. And you don't have to do anything really complicated. You can just work with text. So the layers is really up to you what you want to animate. Once you've got all of your layers, then you want to go to Window and turn on your timeline. So now I can see the timeline, and I'm just going to delete that so we can start from scratch here. Once you've got your timeline on, go to the option menu on the right and select Make Frames from Layers. And that will take all of your layers and make them into frames and place them on your timeline. And I'm going to go back because I can see I've got some transparent pixels, so I'm going to turn off the background layer and look at each layer to make sure I can go back and fix those empty pixels. So I'm going to go back on each layer and do that by using the rubber stamp tool. Another tool you can use using the lasso tool is you can select an area, go to Edit Fill, and select Content Aware, and what that does is it will fill it with whatever the content is around it. So I'm going to go back to each layer and clean those up. Alright, so I've gone back and cleaned up all of my layers, and then let me start over so we can see here. Delete my frames, go to the Options menu and go to Make Frames from Layers, and then select 0.5 seconds on the forever loop, and now I can see the animation. So I've got 7 layers here, including that original background layer. But what I want to do is I want to create or duplicate these layers. So holding down the Shift key, I'm selecting all 7 layers. I'm going to go to the option menu and select Copy Frames, and then go back and select Paste Frames. And I want to paste after the selection. Click OK, and I'm going to select all the new copied layers and go back to my option menu. And this time I want to reverse the frames, because what I want to do is to reverse it to look like the hair is blowing up and then blowing back down. So if I hit play, I can see what that will look like. So it goes back down now, and it continues to loop. So now what I want to do is I'm ready to resize this. So if I go to Image, Size, I'm going to change my resolution to 96. Since I'm sizing down, I can go ahead and check resample, because I'm going to make this whole thing smaller in pixel size. Now I'm going to reduce the width to 700 pixels, and I'm going to keep it proportional. Hit OK, and that's going to reduce my overall image size. You can see it's at 100%. This is still going to be large enough to view on a website. Then go to File, Export, and I'm going to save for Web Legacy. Then make sure you select GIF. You can select a preset if you want. I'm going to select 128 dithered. Just keep in mind, if you increase the dithering, it could increase the file size. I'm just going to pretty much keep this at the default. It's going to be set to the 700 pixels by 933. It's on the forever loop. And I can hit preview to preview it in my browser. So it's going to preview in my Google Chrome, and that's what the animation is going to look like. So if I am ready, I will go ahead and save. I'm going to save it into my Module 2 folder in my class folder. And I'm going to give it a new name, save as the GIF. Let me go ahead and save your Photoshop file with all the layers so you can always go back and change it. So save it as a TIFF or as a Photoshop file to maintain all of the layers. On my desktop folder, there's my WIP folder, module 2, and there's the new GIF I just created, and you can view the animation. You can see the original one that I did. You can also see it on the linked website on As You Learn. If you click on Animated GIF Examples, you can see a sample of an animated GIF, then another one, and then here's the one with the Statue of Liberty. You can click to see more, and then you can click on the Fun with Type link if you want to see the text instructions. So have fun with your animated GIF.